It is the Stephanie Miller Show. Well, you know, he's fancy and all. He's the chairman of the House Budget Committee and all that. But I do like that he always slips something bourbon-related into House bills. This is good. He is working on EU and UK tariffs continue to hurt U.S. bourbon exports, with some set to double to 50% in June. He is on it. He's on it. Representative John Yarmuth of the great state of Kentucky. And I only can imagine how much you and everyone has needed bourbon in these last 4 years. So... good on you, sir.
Well, David Trone, who owns Total Wine and Spirits, is a member of the House from suburban Washington, and I've told him that he owes me so much because I've spent so much money in his store the last 13 months. It's unbelievable.
It's always the same answer. Do you know who's president? Do you know who's president right now? Just shut up about my bourbon. Chairman.
Actually, yeah, you're right. It was 4 years in the making, but the pandemic doubled that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, I was saying earlier, it is amazing. President Biden, in less than 100 days, is getting everything done that Trump said he was going to, and of course, it didn't get anything done. Whether it's getting out of Afghanistan, infrastructure, COVID relief. I mean, look at what y'all have gotten done. I mean, and you were talking about this. People who've lost loved ones to COVID-19 can apply for federal assistance to help cover funeral costs, which is amazing. You also tweeted about in your state, effective today, all Kentuckians aged 16 and older are now eligible for a shot at hope. Head to the vaccine site there in Kentucky. I mean, it's real stuff for real people that's gotten done. Shots in arms, checks in bank accounts. Yeah.
It's amazing, yeah. And Kentucky's, we're somewhere close to 30% of vaccination now. Governor said yesterday that in a matter of weeks, if everybody participates, continues to participate, we could have herd immunity that early in Kentucky. So, and this is, that's all part of the strategy that the Biden administration put in place that really ramped up production, that got the distribution going. And of course, we funded a lot of that with the American Rescue Plan. So, yeah, I'm ecstatic about the progress we're making. Obviously, we've got some bad spots. Michigan's having some serious difficulty.
But in terms of vaccine, I was just going to ask you, what do we do about all your other southern states? I mean, the vaccine rates are pathetic, and we're hitting this wall of like half of Republicans saying they absolutely will not get the vaccine. I think Ivanka Trump posted a photo of getting vaccinated, and the MAGA nation went insane. It is so. And I know the numbers are coming down somewhat, but what do you do about this solid wall that is, reinforced by Fox News and God knows what else, right? And they're even immune to Trump saying, I got the vaccine and you should too, right?
They are. And, it's just amazing that people will put themselves at risk for a MAGA. Something that, for somebody who's lied to them for 4 years. And of course, they don't think that. But you have to be totally ignorant to not understand that this is important, that the vast majority of scientists and scientific evidence says that we ought to be out there getting these vaccines done, and that's the way we open up the most quickly. So it's mind-boggling.
Yeah. Well, so what was I going to say? So I mean, there's so much going on. Obviously, the American Jobs Act. Speaking of Trump, it's just, I know it was a joke, but like every week, I'm a builder. It's what I do best. It's infrastructure week. Right. We're going to build, and nothing. He did nothing. And now, this, tell us about the American Jobs. And I'm glad you called it that, because that's what it is. It is good American union jobs. It's green jobs. I just seems like a win-win-win. Once again, why it's wildly popular with the American people, right?
Absolutely. And as the president likes to stress, and I think it's really important, the vast majority of the jobs that will be created under the American Jobs Act would be jobs that don't require a college education. So the jobs creation part of it is targeted at the segment of the population that has been most dramatically affected in a negative way, not just over the last 14 months, but over the last decade or so. It's really, really, Republicans like to talk about targeted. This is targeted. And, the Republicans, it's kind of telling how desperate they are to come up with a reason to oppose this. By the way, most of which they've supported in the past. Mm-hmm. But, they say, only 5% of it's actually infrastructure. Well, if you were living in the 19th century, your definition of infrastructure would be roads and bridges. That would be just about it. It wouldn't even include airports. But we're in the 21st century now. And the idea that the electric grid is not part of infrastructure, that broadband is not part of infrastructure, that a comprehensive child care and elder care system of support is not part of infrastructure. And I said, if you can't get to your job because your kids are at home and you don't have access to child care, or you're caring for an elderly relative, that's every bit as much an impediment to work as having no public transportation.
Yep.
So it clearly is part of infrastructure. And that's, to me, what the most impressive thing about this plan is. When we were briefed on it the first time, it was, wow, this all holds together. Yeah. It's all very sensible. Yeah. And it's all done within that environmental climate change frame, which is about time.
I hate to correct you in anything, but as you know, airports were very important during the Revolutionary War, according to our former president.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. The Battle of O'Hare.
Right.
Yeah.
O'Hare versus Midway was very important.
Right.
So true.
Yeah. So Congressman, obviously, it feels like a myth of bipartisanship at this point. Like, who is it? I don't know what this group is as usual, your colleague from Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, always very helpful, very, very helpful. He's just,
of course.
Right. I mean, I love you tweeted, you can always count on Mitch to be both pathetic and hypocritical when he said for corporate America to stay out of politics, although their money is fine. Right. But it's just on every single bill. He just finds a reason to say this is far left, and it's not. Every single thing that Biden has either done or proposed, wildly popular with the American people, including Republicans in the country.
Absolutely. And, one of the most gratifying things about the American Rescue Plan, and I think we'll see the same thing with the American Jobs Act, is all these Republican mayors and Republican governors who are saying, this is a godsend. This is exactly what we need. Please do it. And that puts the congressional Republicans in a very interesting position. They're out on a limb, and everybody else is sawing that limb off behind them.
Yeah.
That's what it should be. It's the way it should be.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to get your take, being the House budget chairman. But some of these attempts, maybe I'm getting cynical, but Mitt Romney and Kyrsten Sinema in the process of crafting a bipartisan legislation to increase the minimum wage. Mitt said it will ultimately take it to our group of 20. That's their bipartisan, whatever they think, and see how they would react to it and go from there. Even Joe Manchin, you can explain to me the point of Joe Manchin, but anyway, he said, I think it's $11 when asked about the measure. Manchin has repeatedly said he will favor something closer to $11 and then phase the minimum wage in. I don't understand. Is $15 too high even for West Virginia? And I mean, West Virginia desperately needs infrastructure. All of the things that are in that bill. What do we do about a problem like Joe Manchin?
Oh gosh, I was discussing that earlier this morning. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but you know what Bob, and I don't really know Joe Manchin. I've met him, but I don't know him. But he likes to say, well, West Virginia deserves a seat at the table. Well, of course they do, but they don't deserve to make the choice for 330 Americans.
Yeah.
And that's the position he happens to be in right now. So West Virginia doesn't get to dictate to the vast majority of the American people. The Senate's going to have to figure that out. I gave up a long time ago trying to figure out the United States Senate. But on the question of the minimum wage, I think if they went to something like $11, $12 immediately, that's where we would have been under the original $15 proposal anyway.
Yeah, and then phase it in.
That doesn't bother me. If they said we're going to go to $11 by 2025, I think that's pretty sad. But the economy in many cases is taking care of that. UPS in my district, which is our largest employer, they just started advertising $14.50 starting salary. Walmart, most of the large employers realize they have to do that to get employees today. But where we really fall short, and this is why the minimum wage and the American Jobs Act is so important, is we're paying caregivers $9 an hour to take care of our senior relatives, and
yeah, I know
that's a career where we really need to make an investment. That's the career where the higher minimum wage really helped. And the other thing, we had a hearing on the Education and Labor Committee. I'm also on that committee last week talking about income disparity, gender disparity in wages. And I asked the question of somebody from one of the think tanks, how much of this has to do with the minimum wage? Because we know so many of the lower wage jobs are held by women.
Yeah.
And if we were to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, how much would that reduce the gender disparity in income? And they didn't know the answer to that, but I think that's an important question for us to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I know
absolutely.
we were talking off air a little bit about, it just kills me that they're screaming about, most of our lives, the corporate tax rate has been 35, right? So Trump lowers it to 21, and Biden is some sort of far, wild-eyed socialist for wanting to go to 28. I mean, and now I'm like, okay, 25. Oh my God. And we were just saying that, meanwhile, places like Amazon play zero. I mean, it's already so out of whack, isn't it?
Yeah. Amazon paid 1.2% last year, 0 the 2 years before that.
Yeah.
And they make about $30 billion a year. So they can afford to pay.
And that's
more.
just on me. I mean, okay.
Right. Particularly when their entire business is built on infrastructure, right?
Yeah. Yes.
They go with infrastructure and they have nothing. So it's absolutely right. And when the Republicans lowered it to 21 in 2017, nobody was asking for 21. The corporations weren't asking for 21.
Yeah.
They said 28 would be fine. Barack Obama was willing to go to 28 when he was president. So this is a silly debate right now. And of course, what the Republicans doing, the very sincere people they are, they're saying, well, this would be terrible for small businesses. Well, small businesses don't pay federal income tax because they're all pass-through businesses.
Right.
These are S corporations, not C corporations. And so again, these Republicans are just desperate to come up with arguments because they know they're on the wrong side of the issue in virtually every respect.
Yeah. And, thank God Biden's doing what he can. You tweeted today, POTUS announced the executive actions to help stop the scourge of gun violence in this country. The Senate must now pass our common sense legislation to strengthen background checks, close loopholes, etc. I mean, this is something 90% of Americans, including Republicans, agree on. And it's just endlessly frustrating, isn't it?
Oh, well, of course it is. And I wear my F every day. That's my NRA rating. And I've been doing that for almost 3 years. And as a matter of fact, when we started doing this, I created this pin and my colleagues put them on and we were all tweeting out about it and we're getting great response. The NRA took their rating system off their website because they said our enemies are using this against us. And it's just so obvious. And what the president's doing is positive. If nothing else, it's positive because it says the federal government is not going to remain idle and sit back and do nothing when we have this carnage throughout our country.
Yeah. Congressman, before you go, can I ask you about this new report? A blistering internal report by the Capitol Police describes a multitude of missteps that left the force unprepared for the January 6th insurrection, riot shields that shattered upon impact, expired weapons that couldn't be used, inadequate training, an intelligence division that set few standards. Quotes, an Army official is telling the then Capitol Police that we don't like the optics of the National Guard standing in a line at the Capitol after the insurrectionists had already broken in. I mean, the report looks at a missed memo from the FBI in which online activists predicted a war on January 6th. One Capitol Police report predicted the protesters could become violent. It said Congress itself is the target. Are we ever going to see real justice, including all the way up to Trump in the Capitol riot?
I don't know, but the top priority has to be making sure that the reforms that are needed with the Capitol Police are made, that they are adequately staffed, adequately paid. Yes, there's a lot of the culture that needs to be changed, but we in Congress have pretty much neglected, I think, oversight on the Capitol Police. And unfortunately, it took something like January 6th to wake us up. But I think the Congress is going to do what it needs to do to make sure that not just all of us who work here, but the public who is often here, we hope they return soon. And the symbol of our democracy is not under attack. So I think we'll do the right thing. And the Speaker's committed to that. I think both parties are committed to doing the right thing now.
Were you there? I forget it. Where were you?
I was in my office. I was where I'm sitting right now for whatever it was, 6-7 hours. We were told to stay in our office, stay away from the windows, lock the doors, and that's what I did. So I was following it like every other American was. And, I still haven't been able to fully process what happened that day, how people who claim to love America were attacking other Americans and using the American flag in some cases to do that.
Yeah.
I still can't make sense of it.
Well, and I said yesterday, I applauded your colleague, Representative Dan Kildee, who we've had on, for saying he got help. He said, I went home, I thought I was fine. It was after I got home, I started looking at some of the videos from the event. I thought it was a few dozen people. It was hundreds and hundreds of people, violent people that triggered an emotional and physical reaction. He said the trauma led to a lot of tension in my chest. Breathing was difficult. I became very irritable. He spoke to a psychiatrist who specializes in trauma. Because, you all in particular, and all of us, really was a trauma that I think, I can imagine all those videos re-trigger it for all of you.
Yeah, I never felt personally threatened that day because I didn't think they were going to come into the office buildings and hunt us down.
Right.
It didn't seem like they had any interest in that. But I had friends who were in the chamber. I had a friend who called me. Dan's a friend. And I've talked to them since. And God, I just can't imagine how traumatic it was when they had to put their gas masks on. None of them had ever put the gas mask on, so they had to
calling their loved ones to say goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, just terrible.
Yeah. How much? Be honest. How much bourbon did you go through that day? Was it 7 hours?
Oh,
how much?
Stop, Stephanie.
He's got it in his office.
Fortunately, well, I always am well stocked, so I didn't run out. Let's put it that way. But yeah,
you just kept changing the level with the magic marker. Okay, well, it's a different. Right. It's a special day.
And by the way, while we're on the subject, the Kentucky Derby is in a couple of weeks, and
right.
It's on May 1st, Saturday, May 1st, and there is a horse named Bourbonic in the Derby.
Bourbonic. I'm betting on that one. Oh my God! I have
won the Wood Memorial at 72-1.
Wow. Okay. I'm out here in LA, so I'm going to have Jason Alexander take me shopping in Beverly Hills. I'll get a fabulous polka dot dress and a hat. I'll be there. I'll be fully vaccinated. Okay.
Your mint julep. Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for taking time, Congressman, and thanks for fighting the good fight for us. Appreciate it.